Okay, everyone, the time has arrived for our final, which is going to be really interesting and unique because we're doing it on Zoom this year as opposed in person. So thanks everybody for your suggestions from class last time. I'm going to go over what I've put together. And just as a note on this first page of the slides, and again, this slideshow is actually posted on Canvas, so you can go back and look at it after you watch the video and as you prepare for the final. But what I've done is I've put some YA lit titles about plagues and pandemics so that if you at any point feel the need to read something about pandemic or illness related, plague related stuff, here are some titles. Fever 1793 is by the same author as Speak, and it's historical fiction. I put in two nonfiction texts. One is the very, very, very dreadful influenza pandemic of 1918. That's the Spanish flu. And this one was a National Book Award finalist. And then I also used Susan Campbell Bartoletti, which is many of you read her books during our nonfiction circle. And she did some research on Typhoid Mary. So that's also, those are the two nonfiction books. Pandemic in the middle is a realistic fiction text, like set in the present and what would happen, and essentially a plague sort of, or a flu goes through the country. So very similar to, it's this author's imagining of what was happening right now. I think it was published in 2014. And then the one on the far right, the 11th Plague, is a dystopian. Again, based on a flu or some other kind of plague destroying civilization as we know it. So I personally have not read any of these books. I haven't ever thought of reading pandemic books before, but these all had pretty good ratings and suggestions, so I thought I'd pass those on to you since that's what I like to do, is give you as many titles as possible. Okay, so moving on to talking about final exam details. So, okay, so the final takes place on Tuesday next week at 11 a.m. Hawaii Standard Time. So everybody's going to need to log in to Zoom at that time. I've included the link here, the meeting ID, and the password so that you can get into that meeting. And as we decided during class on Thursday, you guys chose to do a debate. So the way that we're going to put this together is there are 8 of you, so you'll be paired with a debate partner. So we're going to create 4 teams, and there's going to be 2 debates. So each team will debate one other team, and they'll be back to back. Each debate total will take about 21 to 25 minutes, and so you can expect the final to last about an hour. Okay. Each team will prepare for both topics. I'm going to give you 2 topics, so each debate will have a different topic, but you're going to prepare for both topics, and you also have to prepare to debate the pro and the con for each topic. Because at the start of the final, we're going to use a randomizer to choose your opponent, to choose your topic, and then to choose if you're going to be arguing pro or con. So everybody should be prepared to debate anything, essentially, on that day. So here are the topics, and I was going to give you a list. I think we talked about that, and have you vote. But at this point, I'm thinking there's just not enough time for us to wait for a vote and then come back and give you the topics. So I've decided to give you these 2 topics. They are also 2 topics that I felt had a lot of material we've already read in class that you can draw on. So you don't need to necessarily do any research for this, which again will cut down on time and save you some time before our debate. So the first topic is about censorship and banning of books. The pro argument is that censorship and or banning of books for teen readers should not be encouraged or allowed. And then obviously the con side would be that it's okay to have some censorship and banning of books. And if you look on February 18th, that's when we had a lot of the readings on this. So you can go and look at those for sources. Second option, the Own Voices movement is the most effective way to increase the number of high-quality, diverse young adult books in the field. And the readings were on March 3rd. So you can go and look at those. So those are going to be our 2 topics. So again, make sure that you prepare with your partner the pro and the con, or affirmative and negative positions on those statements. All right, and here are the teams. I picked these using a randomizer. So your teams, team 1 is going to be Dimple and Jenna, team 2, Danny and MJ, team 3, Maya and Rachel, and team 4, Leah and Autumn. So make sure you get in touch with them pretty quickly here so that you can start deciding who's going to speak during which segment of the debate and how you're gonna, what sort of content you're each planning to use. And here is the format. It's the same format that we used in class the day that we did the authorship debate. So it should be pretty straightforward since you have seen it before. Remember, there are 4 statements per debate, so each person on your team will speak twice during the debate. And you can decide who wants to be speaker 1, 2, the rebuttal, and who will give the closing statement. Here are some tips. I would strongly suggest that you pre-assign which of you will speak during each segment for both pro and con positions. You're going to want to collaborate to find specific examples from course content in your arguments. So you can use the academic articles and theoretical readings that I assigned. You can give examples from the novels we've read, from things that we brought up in class. Any of those things you can bring in during your segment. I would also very strongly suggest that you work together to plan the content of each segment so that you don't repeat the same arguments or examples as your partner. So as much as possible, I would highly recommend that you write out each segment ahead of time and time yourselves presenting so that you can use up all of the time. So if you have 3 minutes, use all 3 minutes. If you have 1 minute, make sure that you're not going over a minute. Okay, so make sure that that timing is good. I highly suggest you use all the time you have available and not shorter than that. Because you're doing both sides, it's going to be a lot easier for you to anticipate the major arguments your opponents will present. So you can plan parts of your rebuttal ahead of time. And in the rebuttal section, you're really just going to be addressing the points that your opponents bring up. So if you can anticipate several of those points and have your rebuttal written out for those points, it'll save you a lot of time to try and a lot of scrambling during the 5-minute break to plan your rebuttal. During the rebuttal section, I would also strongly suggest that you use the rebuttal section, not the speaker sections, but the rebuttal sections to respond directly to the points made by your opponents. Okay, and then unfortunately, for whatever reason, my version of Zoom does not have breakout rooms. So during the 5-minute recess segment here, the 5-minute recess for group discussion, I'm just going to have everybody mute their audio, and then you can go and figure out a separate way to communicate with your partner. Maybe you can use your phones or some other type of chat on your computers so that you can communicate during that 5-minute recess, and it's not like everybody talking at once over Zoom. All right, and then finally, here's the rubric that I'm going to use. So each of you will be graded individually for your contribution to the debate. So the first section is worth 40 points. Are your statements well researched and documented? And when I say that, I mean referring to like specific writers, academics, authors, articles, things like that. Do you say where this came from? And potentially quote your sources. The second section is worth 50 points, and any of these 3 will apply. So everybody will give at least one, either speaker 1 or speaker 2 statement. So that one's the same for everybody, but only one of you will be giving a rebuttal and one will be giving the concluding argument. And so if you give a rebuttal, it'll go into that 50. And if you give the concluding argument, it'll go into that 50. So whichever of those 3 apply will go through towards that 50 points. And then finally, the speaker adhered to the rules of the debate. And this is kind of like Do you stay within your time limit? If you have 3 minutes and you only use a minute and a half, that'll probably ding you a little there. If you have 2 minutes and you use 3 minutes, that will probably also ding you there. And then, of course, professionalism, which I'm not worried about with you guys, but not getting mean or unprofessional during that. So that's it, and that's how it's going to be graded. So if you have any questions, let me know. Hopefully this is clear. I will send it out in an email as well as post in the announcements and the assignment on Canvas so that everybody can find it. And that's it. I will see you on Tuesday.